Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Nomad CEO. I'm here with Justin Freistadt. And Justin, I'm really honored to have you on the show. So Justin is a entrepreneur and founder and fund manager. As all of my guests so far, he's also been through the ringer. He's got really interesting, inspiring, and a very inspiring story to share with us. And so I'm really happy and excited to have you on the show, Justin. And I'm gonna ask you the same questions I always ask my guests at the beginning, which is basically, what was your pivotal moment in your career as a founder, as an entrepreneur, and how did you end up where you are today?
Wow, pivotal moment. There's been a ton of them. So I think that's a good place to start. If you haven't had to pivot a lot, it's time to try and play bigger games. But I would say the big first pivot was just dropping out of college and going into sales. That's kind of how I found my path in life. So, without that road less traveled story, I would have felt inadequate. I wouldn't have fit in any traditional mold just because I couldn't get through class. I couldn't sit still. So sales kind of saved my life in that sense.
So you basically the personification of the toxic masculinity kind of guy, young man who cannot sit still in the classroom and needs to do, yeah. So but that's what is you talking about, the current state of colleges and everything? Do you think is this why, what's going on there right now? So let's just first start with that.
Yeah, I think as time goes on, everything changes, and the world, I think, is more accepting of alternative paths at this point than it was, let's say, 15 years ago, when I was in college. I think it was 15 years ago at this point. But now it's totally cool to go into the trades. It's totally cool to start a YouTube channel. I think it's just, my parents' generation, it was like the path is college. And if you don't do that, you're going to be a failure, right? Or they had their motives of like, we want you to go there to develop and, meet the right people. Like all of these things you hear about, middle class mentality about life. And there's some merit to that, but it just doesn't fit every kid. And I think every kid needs to try a ton of things, fail forward. We need to encourage that so that you can find your path sooner and then lean into it. And that's kind of what happened to me. Once I found door-to-door sales, found some success and started building on that, I got obsessed, and then it was building teams, and then it's eventually exiting the business and selling it off to private equity, which was an incredible experience. And then that forces you into the next thing and the next thing. And the more of those experiences you can put yourself through, the more you develop.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I understand you also had some major bumps on the road. What was your, let's say, because usually when I asked that first question, I asked you about your pivotal moment. What most guests start with is their biggest failure, right? So it's basically when I call those rock bottom moments. And so I guess you've had those as well. And so my question would now be, what was your biggest failure so far? And what did you learn from it?
Yeah, my rock bottom moment came in 2023. It was in July. So we're almost there at the 2-year mark right now. But exiting that business, making a ton of money, starting the next business, it took me 10 years to build a $10 million business with my dad that we eventually sold. The next year, the first business that I went back into, or new business I went into, we went to 20 million in a year. So I figured out how to do double in 1 year that had taken me 10 years to figure out, which was great. But the problem is I took a ton of that capital from the exit. I rolled it into multifamily real estate in 2022 at the top, peak valuations, low interest rates, and it all flipped. So, a lot of that money's at risk. We've got hundreds and hundreds of multifamily units that we're probably going to lose, probably going to default back to the bank. So I've already mentally written that off. I took a ton of that money, put it into our startup hedge fund, my first fund that grew incredibly fast. And then we got wrapped up in a fraudulent situation. Someone stole a bunch of money from us, so here I am, selling a business, making a ton of money, building another big one. And then it all comes crashing down in the summer of 2023. And, we are at the end of a 2-year litigation battle there and, had to sue a ton of people. People sued me. And the first time you go through this stuff, you just feel like the world's coming to an end. But every single person more successful than me, all of my mentors told me, no lawsuits, no relevance. Congratulations. You're on your way to becoming one of us. Like, these are people that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars. This is just, these types of problems are just another day for them. So if you're going through your first experience with extreme failure, like, look at it as a sign of future success. I used to feel terrible when I would hear these stories. I wanted to avoid it like the plague. Now, I wish that upon you. I hope you go through a really hard time, because the person you're going to become on that journey is going to be way more valuable than the money you lost, or the business you lost, or the embarrassment you felt. All these different things. On the other side of it, you realize it's actually what you needed so you could become the person that you were meant to be.
Yeah, totally agree with that. It's yeah. I mean, in your case, this is a very it's a recent development, right? This is not that far long ago. It's 2023 summer is 2 years ago, and it sounds like you're still getting the consequence. You still feel the consequences of it. I guess from that, because it's so recent.
Yeah.
What was your besides the realization or the that you understand now that this is a necessary thing to happen, like in order to have success and be victorious, one has to have some struggle going on, right? The struggle is like the black and it's like the duality of life. In order to have one thing, you have to have the opposite as well. It needs to be there. And so you choose your struggle, right? This is a realization that I think all of us have, because it's a common thing, right? We all run through different types of struggles and hardship. We can just choose the type of struggle but not even that. Sometimes it comes upon us, and then we end up in this situation. It's just fucked up altogether, and then we sort of have to find a way out. But other than that realization, besides that realization, what other lessons did you learn from that moment?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing was I learned that I can handle it, right? Going into something like that, if you told me it was going to happen, I would have told you it's going to break me. I'm not going to survive. I'll never bounce back. But then when it does happen, that's when you get to look in the mirror and decide how you're going to handle it, one day at a time, one call at a time. You start getting engaged in the rebuild. And now I look at 2 years later, not only have we fought a hard litigation fight for those investors and won, but at the same time, we've rebuilt other businesses. I'm now on the board of a publicly traded company, and we're months away from applying to uplist onto the New York Stock Exchange. And we started another private equity fund, and we just finished a private capital round on a future $4 billion asset in Chattanooga, 120-acre waterfront development. So I look on the other side of 2 years and say, it was hard. I lost my house. I had to move into a condo. I had to get a high ticket sales job for the first few months to keep the lights on and just sell. I was looking for the next opportunity to rebuild something big. And that's what's happening right now. So it only took 2 years to get right back on the map, to get right back into something that can become massive. And it's just, it's a beautiful thing on the other side. So people that just choose hard in terms of stagnation, not going for it, like, that's a different type of prison. I think you got to understand that life is going to be hard. The second you accept that everything is hard, at least you get to choose the hard that can give you the biggest rewards in life. At the end of this whole life experience, you're going to look at your story, not how much money you made, none of that. You're going to want to have an incredible story. And the last 2 years, the story is more incredible, ups and downs, than the whole first 10 years of my career, because I was playing it safe. So that's the big lesson. The harder you can go all in continuously, and there's no good days, there's no bad days, there's just another day. There's no wins, there's no losses. It's just your business experience. If you can look at it that way, you'll be able to do incredible things.
Yeah, totally agree with that too. There is I think lack of courage is probably the most destructive or the most problematic trait one can have, like in terms of business and life in general, right? So lack of courage is really the core issue, because we all have these dreams to be whatever and do things, but there's just a small percentage of people that are actually willing to take action and do this stuff. I just had another guest on my podcast last week, Luke Tobin, a British entrepreneur, founder of Tobin Capital, huge following, hundreds of thousands of followers, and he also talks about exiting. I mean, that's what he taught. What he teaches is he teaches founders to prepare for an exit, and he said like the best day to start preparing for your exit is the day you start your business, and the second best day is today. And so because a lot of the times business owners don't understand this dynamic, and then they try to sell the business or exit the business when they're already burned out, and then there's no momentum going on, and the investors just they're not interested in a business that is dependent on you, and it's also not, so he's a very inspiring figure. And he also says like most guys or most people should not even be entrepreneurs. So it's because they don't have what it takes to go through the tough times and this. Yeah, so that's a reality. When what I answered is like, the good news is that most people find out pretty quickly. So it's usually the problem solves itself pretty quickly, or the market, right?
Yeah, I mean, we all have all the thoughts, right? I think the difference is that the people who are scared and do it anyways, the people who, like when we lost our fund and everything was falling apart, of course I thought to myself, maybe I should just go back to direct sales. That's I know that maybe that's what I was meant to be. Maybe I was always just supposed to be a door-to-door sales guy, right? Everybody's going to have their story that's in their head that's going to keep you where you are or send you backwards when things get tough. The difference is some people just keep going and keep trying and keep pushing anyways. And you have to be that person because the odds are always against you. If you look at odds and percentages, you'll never do anything. It's like you just have to believe that you can be the exception, that you can sustain, that you have the endurance, that you can develop, that you can study and become better and eventually do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. What is your most inspiring business model figure out there? Who are you? Who would be your what people would be your main influences?
You know, I used to have a lot more, I would say. Lately, I've been staying in my lane, trying to figure out who I am and living more to that instead of looking up to other people. I would say, I really love Alex Hormozzi's content. There's things he's just has a beautiful way of crafting things. And sometimes it's not even business, like it's life stuff because we're all just trying to figure it out. So, we have to be able to leverage other people's life experiences to put context on ours and accelerate the journey. I think following him is is probably your best bet to get that done. And then, there's been some key people along the way. Matt Monero, not super well known. Love his book. It's called You Need More Money. And it really reframes the reason why you need more money. Most people see money as greed, as, evil, these things, but somebody close to you gets cancer and doesn't have insurance and no one can pay the bill, you're going to wish you had the money. So it's kind of reframing the why and the reason why wealth is important and you should prioritize it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the reality is just as it is. No, there's no sugarcoating on there's no as because there's this current, like this notion that somehow being pursuing profit is somehow a evil thing or something like that. It's no this which is just stupid, right? I think you should have a clear why, and it should in this why should not be money, but it doesn't change the fact that money is a core, also a core driver for each business, right? We want to be profitable, of course, right? Yeah. So another thing that I would like to ask you is, well, first of all, my newsletter audience, or my audience, is 40% are starters. They're starting out, wanna be business owners, wanna be entrepreneurs, wanna be founders. And I know this because I ask them every time they sign up to and subscribe to my newsletter. And Also, I focus only on men because I think that men need more encouragement in 2025. I believe we have a unique drive for performance. We have this burden of performance in society, which is just a thing. It's just a reality that is never really touched upon. I mean, it's not really a part of the discussion often, and also, and I think it really affects our how we think of business and how and why we go into business, because it affects us in each area of our lives, in how we mate, how we choose where to live, how we relate to other, how we make friends and circles, how we relate. It really affects everything in our life. This burden of performance, I believe. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's a huge problem because most men, even successful men, are living quiet lives of desperation in some area of their life. And they have to hold on to it and deal with it however they deal with it because it's you got to be a man, right? And the benchmark of the pinnacle man is so difficult, right? I think it's less than 1% of men are millionaires and have a six pack, right? Like that's I think what we're all trying to benchmark against is we all want to be in great shape. I would hope you want to be in great shape. We all want to be successful in business or in our career, whatever it is. But I think we need a conversation around grace and development and saying, hey, it's okay to be wherever I am in that journey. I think that's actually been one of the things that's really helped me and my success is that I'm an open book of authenticity. I'll tell you exactly where I am. I have no shame about it. I'm extremely curious. I want to talk to everyone, get everyone's perspective. And I was like that when I had nothing and I was just starting. Of course, I felt complex that, I wasn't as successful as I wanted to be. And there were other people who were ahead of me. And there still are. There's always going to be that. But you got to like just tune out the noise, stay in your lane, only run a race against yourself, and then just ask yourself every day, am I 1% better than I was yesterday? That's all you can control. You know, did I go to the gym? Did I eat right? Did I make the calls? Did I do whatever's in front of me? This is a big problem with goal setting and having big dreams. People look at you make a big goal, you won't even get started because of how far away it seems and unattainable it is. So I kind of reverse engineered that down to 24 hours. I make 24-hour goals. That's it. I only can control my next 24 hours. So that's what I focus on. Like what needs to get done the next 24 hours. If you can focus on that and have a long-term view of results, wait till you see what compounds over time.
Yeah, totally. The impact and the importance of a daily routine and habits is just, this is one of these things that are underestimated. I mean, you brought up the percentage of men that have a six pack and are successful, which is incredibly low. But then there's other aspects to, like, for example, having a six pack is probably it's gonna have a high impact on your mental state, which is what you want, right? Because you it's to me, for example, when I lost my business, after that, I was broke and also physically weak, like addicted. I got hooked on benzodiazepines because I ended up in the hospital because of that breakdown I had that day. And then, but was also drunk. I was trying to soothe the pain with alcohol and stuff like that. And then after that, it forced me to bounce back and then just give up all of these bad habits. And now I went from 23% body fat to 10% body fat, and I'm 47, and I increased 4 kilo of muscle mass. So it age. So what I'm trying to say here is that this has a strong impact on yourself because it helps you to, well, it makes you feel better. Basically, it makes you feel better about yourself, which then translates into more positive action and more discipline and more other areas of your life. I think overestimate the impact on others. I think men think like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get a six pack, and after that, I'm gonna have women lined up on my doorstep to hook up, which is, I think, not true. I think that this is overestimated. I think having money, status, is way more effective than having a six pack, but this is debatable, I guess.
For me, it's got to be both. Like if you if you are extremely overweight and cannot take care of yourself, I'm not going to trust you to take care of my investment or be my business partner. I just won't. You know, like I do believe how you do anything is how you do everything. And this is really important because when you do go through the really hard times in business, like when I was losing everything, you know, what kept me going was fitness. It was the health side of things. It was like if I can still go to the gym every day, if I can still maintain my physique, I can stay the person that will go back to where I was. I mean, those are ingrained habits that cross reference. You're not always going to be in the greatest health phase. You're not always going to be in the greatest business phase. But if you prioritize those two things, you can lean on the other when the other one isn't doing so well and still stay in the game.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Even if nothing works and you end up in the gym in that day, you at least you get your shit together, you got your shit together, and you ended up doing something for your body, for your mental health, because you're also helping your mental health. And it gives you the power maybe the next day to change some other very important things about your life. So yeah, totally agree. I also don't, I think we should bring back a lot more shame in that respect. We're now this whole culture of, okay, it's okay to be fat. And I don't think it's okay to be fat. I mean, there's this argument that, okay, it can be a health issue, maybe for a very small percentage of people, but I just don't believe it's always in your control to eat less. So you can have, it's just a decision.
Yeah.
Quit smoking is a decision, or just eat less fast. If you're fat, then just go fast. Go, do not eat. It's that simple. So it's not complicated, and if you can't do it, it means that you just don't have the strength, ability, the capacity, to do that. So this also translates into other your life and success and so forth, right? So yeah, I agree. Okay, you brought up Hormozy. I also love his content. I think he's a inspiring figure. Who else has had a big impact on you?
I mean, in the early days, it was Brian Tracy. He was number one for me. I mean, he had a book called No Excuses that completely changed my life more than any other book that I've ever read. And it was the, let's say, the light switch for me of being a victim to a victor. I remember that book, something snapped in my brain and I realized, and this is when I was probably 22, 23 years old. I was like, oh, wow, everything in my life is my fault no matter what. Everything I'm going to become is going to be because of something I did or didn't do. Everything is only on me and no one else. And if you really can internalize that principle, I just don't know very many people that don't become successful.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know that particular figure, but I do agree with the.
He's one of the old school guys. He's like from the Zig Ziglar era.
Okay, okay. For me, old school business advice is like Tony Robbins, or yeah. So I mean, this is the business coach, or more than that, is a life coach, right? But he also has a ton of good business advice, because it's all the same, right? It's again, from 1 to 10, how accurate would you assess the statement, like to say what entrepreneurship is just personal development in disguise?
Yeah, 100%. And for most people, I would recommend just getting started and doing it instead of reading and doing personal development. I've learned way more from actually doing things in life than from all the hundreds of books I read on the way to it. I think you need to do both, but there's just an epidemic of people that learn on a loop and never do anything. So there's a time for learning. And then once you see the path, it's time for doing. And that's the biggest missing dynamic. People want to do personal development, go to events, read books, read books, read books. What have you done? The guy who read no books and just went and started a business is already ahead of you. So you got to get started.
Yeah, I agree. What's your most controversial opinion?
My most controversial opinion, man, I would say probably that genetics doesn't play a role in where you end up. I
Okay.
think I think there's especially in the personal development world, it's like anybody can be a billionaire, anybody can do this, anybody can do that. I think that's total garbage. I think you have to figure out who you are and the way God made you, and then lean into whatever those skill sets are to maximize the human being you were meant to be. Not all of us were meant to be engineers. Not all of us are meant to be sales guys. Not to say that you can't learn and improve and become something that you're not, but you really got to figure out, what drives you, what your skill sets are. And I just don't think it's kind of like parents that think that they parent several kids the same way. They turn out completely different. They are who they are, and I think we just think that we can change a lot more than we can change. Like, your kid's gonna be who your kid's gonna be. Obviously, you can really screw them up or really help them on that journey depending on how you parent, but they are who they are.
So you're essentially saying that there's a genetic component that we all have and we cannot escape from. I agree, actually, but I do agree with this because it's like the opposite of what this progressive idea is teaching people, that it's all socialization, it's all bringing how you're being brought up, and so just complete crap. I also believe that there is a immutable part of us who we are in deep down. We're born with a set of skills or talents that need to be discovered. Essentially, it's your mission in life is to not just discover those skills and talents, but also hone and make sure that they're actually useful to the society, and you can contribute with those talents to others in their lives and add value to their lives. And so this is a very profound topic because it also leans into the what's your purpose question. It's very much tied to this what's your purpose question. So when I lost my business, I did not just lose my money, I lost my identity. And when that happened, I thought, okay, shit, now forget about the millions of I lost. What I actually I wasn't able to stomach was the thought that, okay, now you've been a CEO of a mid-sized company for 13 years. What the fuck are you now, right? And so I was lost for 2 years because also I love photography and I had a gallery in Mexico. So I thought, okay, let's just monetize my photography, but that really did not work well, and I didn't sell shit. And I was lost and didn't really know what my purpose was. So what I'm trying to say here is that it's okay to not have a purpose or to not know what your purpose is, as long as you don't give up trying to find it or rediscover it.
Yeah, it's totally okay to feel that loss of identity. I went through that when we lost our first fund. I was like, I wasn't meant to be a fund manager. I was like, this was really fun for a year, however long it lasted. And I didn't see a path back. Like that negative self-talk, that loss of identity, like it buried me for a good few months. And I went into other things. We started a totally different business in marketing. And even with everything we were going through, on the legal side and all of that, we still built another $1 million business in the first year. And then an opportunity came my way to go back into the fund world. And here we are. It's like, man, like I'm glad I didn't fully give up, because I'm right back where I wanted to be, in the space I want to be in. And 2 years ago, I thought I was done forever.
Yeah. So what would be the 3 most important things you would recommend to the younger audience that wants to become an entrepreneur, wants to become a founder? What should they focus on? The 3 things that they should only care about?
The first one is struggle. You got to train yourself to struggle. This started for me with athletics. I played hockey all the way through college, high school, college.
It's brutal.
I
Yeah.
trained so hard. I beat my body to death. I learned how to suffer physically to get better. And that was the only reason I got into college, was because I was wanted for hockey. It was certainly not my grades, so I'll tell you that. But I was learning to struggle in a physical sense, right? And that's why going to the gym is so important, and eating healthy. Like, it's not fun to eat healthy when there's unhealthy stuff. Like, that's a struggle. So your ability to master struggle is what's going to give you all the fruits and rewards in life. So that's the top thing for me, is figure out how to struggle, even if that means losing your business, or the shame and guilt around the first time you go into entrepreneurship. Everyone in your life that loves you is going to tell you to be careful, this, that. And then guess what? when you don't have success right away or it fails, they're right. And that's a different type of mental struggle. But guess what? They're only right until you figure it out. And then they're wrong forever. So
Yeah.
you just keep going, you keep struggling until you win. That's how this game works. So if you have the staying power to lose over time, eventually you win in ways that nobody can even understand.
Yeah, and that's when they point with the finger, and said, "Oh, this guy was just lucky." But in reality, you went through 5 years of hell, and sometimes longer. Yeah,
Yeah. And you can't put an expiration date on your goals. You don't know when you're going to hit them.
yeah. This is brutal. I mean, this is because deep down, I hear you because I know because I've been there, and so it's a brutal, but it's also like you can if you manage to lean in and not letting the pain of being there, like not it's sort of it loses the grip on you as soon as you don't resist too much. So you have to be willing to look bad. Like it's just like you have to be willing to not care, right? So which is another like don't don't care about what other people think of you, right? It's a part of that thing.
Yeah. And if you do care, that's okay, but do it anyways. Like it's literally that simple. Like people think that their feelings are unique. They're not. We all feel them. And guess what? You're going to feel them again when you try to go to the next level. And then when you get up to go to the next level again, you get to feel all those emotions over and over and over. And the only difference between the people who are down here who haven't even taken the first step and the person who's up here, you just do it anyways. Like I'll say it over and over and over. Fuck your feelings, do it anyways.
Yeah, fuck your feelings. I like that.
Yeah, because like it's not that I don't feel it. I feel all the same stuff that everybody feels. That's what people don't understand is just even though I'm scared to death, I do it anyways.
Yeah, that's how that's where we should focus on, especially in the early days. Then later you can, when you have some status or achievements, well, you still want to choose your struggles, right? You don't want to stay there either. You still want to move and not get stagnant, right? There's also because this Buddhist mindset of the beginner mindset. You never want to give up on this beginner mindset. This is a healthy thing to do. This is something that meditation has taught me. Meditation has helped me to go through difficult times because you can detach from, you can sort of those same fuck your feelings, that the feelings that can hold you back. Meditation can help you to detach. They're not gonna go away, but you don't have to engage necessarily. You can just letting go, let's just there's like sort of this analogy of like clouds in the sky that just show up and then you look at them and then you left. Then they're gonna go away anyways. No need to obsess or overreact in the face of strong feelings or emotions. I don't know. I already asked you about the three things the younger guys what they should focus on. What is one business hack that has helped you make all the difference, like in results, from a more practical standpoint? Now, do you have anything you can share that allowed you to, I don't know, get more sales or
Mhm.
get more results in a more immediate way, like something that they could apply today that gives them more leverage?
Yeah, I want to go even earlier than that. So I think the most important thing you do is decide which vehicle you're going to choose to go into. Most important thing. And I'll give you a perfect example. When I started selling door to door at an average ticket of 1,000 to 5,000 bucks, that was the most I could sell, right? And if you're making 10%, that means I could only make $100 to $500 for my time. Not a bad place for a kid to start. That's totally fine, but you need a better vehicle if you want to make more money, right? So, best example I can give you, because it's just my personal experience, when I was selling door to door in my prime, the most I could sell in a year was 3 million. Like that was the industry record. Beat it, no one's probably ever going to beat it because you would have to work all 365 days to do it, and that's how I did it. So, like no days off the whole year. And I could do 3 million in sales in a year. I wanted to see what is the capacity of this vehicle, and it maxed out at 3 million. Well, I went into the capital raising world where the sky's the limit. The minimum's 100,000. So instead of 1,000 to $10,000 sales, now it's 100,000 or more. And I'll never forget when I made a $1.2 million sale in 15 minutes on a Zoom meeting. That was 6 months of my life before. And I did it not in one day, but in less than an hour. So the vehicle is extremely important that you choose to be in. Once you have the skills and the acumen, the vehicle is the only difference between who's making this and who's making this. So it's going to be really difficult for you on your journey because you're going to get good at something in the beginning that is small. And then you're going to feel so accomplished. You might be making a couple $100,000 for the first time in your life, which is exactly where I was. How do you mentally say, I'm going to give it all up for something bigger? That's the difference. So max out your vehicle and then take those skills to a new vehicle and keep laddering up.
Yeah, so basically it's the pond you choose for the fish, the kind of fish you're gonna swim with is has a major impact on everything else down the line. This is very true, yeah, and so important. It's so important to be aware before you go in full in because there's a ton of. It's also there's this shiny object syndrome going on that a lot of people are, and I include myself. When I was lost, that story I just shared, there was this because you go on the internet and YouTube, and there's a ton of business models out there. You could, and once you decide, you should not look back. I mean, you have to. I think it's good advice to think this one through, take some time, understand the market, know the TAM, the it's called TAM, right? The total, what's the name of it?
Addressable market?
Yeah. So you want to be aware of who you're talking to, who is this for, right? So if you're gonna, there's a big difference in. So, for example, I am now talking to founders only, right? So founders have a specific mindset. Most of them are men. This is a subset, a special subset of people, like people that, and that also has a huge impact because the people you surround yourself with are, it's one of the most important decisions you could ever make, right? Or if you're going to sell to some, I don't know, gamer market, people that this is kids 15 years old, it's a completely different story, right? Those are related topics, who you're selling to and the model. When you say vehicle, what you mean is business model, right?
Yeah, I'll say one more thing about the model you should choose, especially if you're going into sales, which every business needs sales. Have a recurring revenue model. This is the most important thing because if it's a product you can sell to somebody once, you're going to be hunting every day for the rest of your life to get the same results. But if it's something like life insurance, where you sell it one time and the premium renews, now you get leverage in the renewals. That's how you build something big. You need leverage of some sort. You either need to start building a team of people that sell beneath you for leverage that you can get commission off of, or you need a product that has recurring revenue. So you go and put the effort in one time, but you get paid in perpetuity. That's the most important thing. If the business model doesn't have recurring revenue, I'm out.
Yes, this is, or you could also bring up retainer business, service business. Like that's what you want to aim for, and then just focus on providing enough value or excellence so that people just stay with you. It ends up translating in this LTV, lifetime value of a customer. That needs to be high. If you just can you sell once and then it's over, not a good business model, right? That's
Yeah.
probably why 70% of all businesses, our business models in the US are service based. So you can repeat business.
Yeah. That's why my favorite term for myself is I'm a lazy workaholic. I want to find the most lucrative ways to work really hard and get the biggest thing so that I can work less. Hard work is something you should only do to build the skills needed to go work smarter.
I love that term. That's a quote, by the way. I'm a lazy workaholic. This is really cool. Yeah, amazing. Hey, Justin, this was a super amazing. This was an amazing podcast. I'm really happy about the insights you provided, and I think the audience has some nuggets now from you, from real experience as a entrepreneur, which is what I'm looking for. I want to provide the value from people that have also gone through the ringer, have chosen their struggles, and have had like major setbacks like you did. And so this is where the gold is found. And I just want to thank you for your time. And also, just to finish off, where would you like the audience to how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm on all the social medias, but I would say Instagram's where I focus the most. So that's the best way to get a hold of me is just shoot me a DM on Instagram. It's at Justin Freistadt. There's only one of me in the world with a last name like that.
Yeah, you have your German origins. Okay, cool. Um, Once again, thank you so much for being on the show, and all the best to you.
Yep. Thanks so much for having me.
Bye bye.